Carolle here to talk with us this week. Ladies, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you very much for having us.
So it's an entirely different day for Elizabeth. She's in Australia and she's recording on an entirely different day. So it's like we get to do time travel things just right here on the video. So it's been a busy week this week at Dragonblade. I've gotten in the habit of saying that almost every week now, but we had 3 releases this week. Lynn Connolly's An Unusual Courtship released first, and that's part of the Brazen Burrell series. She couldn't join us this week, but I'll make sure I pop the link to her book in the comments so that you can find it if you haven't gotten it yet. And then Elizabeth, your book launched next, and it's the second in the Gems of London series, Curio for the Count, and it's so green.
It is.
Her eyes are so beautiful. I love the cover for that one. So,
thank you.
Can you tell us?
Yes, absolutely. The Gems of London series, and the reason why the cover is so green is the heroine's name is Jade. And the common factor in all of the series is the heroines have gemstone names. There is a very loose cast of characters that connect all of the stories, but otherwise they're pretty much standalones. And I particularly like Jade. She's a little different to other heroines. She's a working girl. She and her family own an antiques emporium. And,
cool.
And that is the central part of the action. Nice. And that's how she meets the hero, the wonderfully named Count Armand d'Angers of Etretat.
Oh my goodness.
Where is he from?
He is a French emigre. He and his mother fled France during the Reign of Terror. He's only 3 years old when he leaves, and he is raised pretty much as an Englishman. But a nightmare that occasionally recurs has him begin to question elements of his past.
Oh, that's exciting. So we get like a little bit of mystery in addition to the romance.
I love mystery and romance.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
It's a great opportunity to really see what your characters are made of, how they stand up under pressure. So when the romance happens, you know that whatever life throws at them in the future, they're going to be a solid couple and truly earn that happily ever after.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love watching them work at problems in different directions too. And I think mystery gives you an opportunity to do that, to see the way their minds work in different ways. Very cool.
Definitely in this particular case, because our hero and heroine are at odds. The clock that features on the cover of A Curio for the Count is the object sought by both of them, Armand because it's a link to his past. But Jade has received a mysterious commission from a client who absolutely covets the clock. So she's just not going to hand it over to the hero. Mm-hmm. He's actually got to earn that, and she's got to deal with her client as well. So we've got that's the heart of the conflict between the two of them.
Oh, fun! And you said all the heroines in the series are named after gemstones?
Yes.
Are they connected in any other way?
They connect with some elements of society. So you'll see some recurring characters come through as well. So there is a link, obviously, Deceiving the Duke, The Elusive Earl, which is the 3rd book, Curio for the Count, but also going back to the Lion's Den story, my story, which is very early in the series. The Lion Sleeps Tonight. The heroine's name is Opal.
Oh, fun! I didn't realize that one was connected.
And also the Duke in Winter anthology, my little novella there, What the False Heart Doth Know. That's also connected. The heroine is Sapphira, named for the sapphire.
Oh, fun! Fun, wonderful. So so we still have 2 more books in this series, or 3 more books in this series after this one?
Two more books in the series: the Elusive Earl, and also the Matchmaking Marchioness, and her name is Pearl.
That's a perfect matchmaking name. That's wonderful. Oh, there's lots to look forward to there. Yeah. So Hope, your book launches at the end of this week. So the day that this video is airing, it's your first release with Dragonblade.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about this one, and I love the setup. She went back in time with the man she didn't want to spend time with. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and also the tagline for the series?
Yeah. So Ellie Hartford is a professor of Middle English literature, and she's visiting her best friend Jane in England. And she comes upon her ex-boyfriend, John Stafford, who she had dated back in college. And he mysteriously disappeared for about 6 weeks while they were dating. And she was furious with him. She couldn't understand why he'd gone missing, what had happened. And so when she runs into him again years later, he is in manacles. He's kind of got these manacles on. His hair is crazy. He's wearing these odd clothes. And it turns out that he'd actually been away time traveling during that period of time, and he's discovered a portal, and so he likes to go back and forth in time, and it's his kind of fantasy to take Ellie back with him.
Forth? You have to like go back or forth. You can't like none of this willy-nilly back and forth stuff.
Yes, he wants to show Ellie his favorite world, and but at the same time, their neighbor, John and Jane's neighbor, also happens to be there, and so he gets pulled back into time with them.
So there are two men. So I wasn't sure when I read the setup whether there was one there and one here.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, and Harry is a farmer next door, kind of a gentleman farmer. He's got horses, and he was the one who took the manacles off of John late one night. And so Ellie's heart is kind of torn in two by this old love who might have a really good excuse as to why he wasn't there all those years ago, and the treasures that he's found in this magical way. But also there's this Harry who seems like a really steady guy, and he's just kind of always there for her in a way that John isn't. So that's the start of the book.
And it goes a multi-century love triangle thing.
Yes, it goes back in time to 1344, which is kind of my time period. I was a Middle English master's student and did not become a full professor. It was too much for me. So, but that's kind of the period that I love to revel in and think about those knights in shining armor and, the round table. And they find one of the mysteries of that time period is the Order of the Garter and when it was founded, which is still in existence today. With the Queen having led it for however long, 60 plus years. At Windsor Castle, there's a ceremony every year. But when I lived in London, all over London, there's the Order of the Garter plaques on places. And it's Honi soit qui mal y pense, which means dishonor to those who think dishonorably. So I wanted her to kind of...
I love that. Can you say that one more time? Can you say the translation one more time?
It's dishonor to those who think dishonorably. So it actually is a story around King Edward III, who was wanting to make an order in the lines of King Arthur's Round Table. And so he was at a dance, and we don't know who he was dancing with, but her garter did fall off her leg. And people were laughing at the ball, and he held it up and he chastised everybody and said, "Don't think dishonorably." So they found it. That's why people in the ceremony even today are wearing their garters around their legs. So yeah, it's really fun.
Oh, very cool. So I can't ask you if she decides to stay or come back because I'm going to have to read the book and find out. But now I want to know if she decides to stay or come back and which one she goes with, because I do understand the lure of a past love kind of thing. But Dude Manacles wants to take you back in time to an unsafe time period. I kind of think the horse farmer guy is maybe a better choice. You know?
Well, the one thing that will kind of help readers figure out whether she wants to stay or go is she does have 2 little girls.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, she is a divorced mom of 2. And so
No manacle dude takes her back in time and leaves her kids in the present.
Correct.
Come on, man.
Yeah, not right.
Somebody must have a talking to him.
It's not right. He's very selfish. Yeah. So, so the series is involving this mysterious time portal, which is the labyrinth in this old castle, and so the series is called Ladies of the Labyrinth, and we have 2 more ladies coming who are all somewhat connected to Middle English or PhDs or something at King's College London, which is where I went to get my master's.
So they're going back with some knowledge to begin with.
Yes, which is very important if you're going to medieval England, because they don't speak modern English.
I always thought that would be so frustrating if you went back in time, because I was horrible at history, like just horrible. So I would know that I had at one point learned the thing and not know the thing that I needed to know, and it would be just like, the information that's just out of grasp. That
right.
it was in
Not
there,
at the right time.
Right.
Yeah, I was an English major and a history minor, so it's kind of merging of my 2 passions.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So, Elizabeth, did you have to do any research into your gemstones or gemstone meanings or things like that? I've always thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
Not particularly for that, but I learned a heck of a lot about clocks, because about clocks, particularly
clocks.
and locks, clocks and locks.
But you meant the shoes.
No clogs, but I could work that one into another one. Learning a bit more about mechanical timepieces, delving a little bit back into history. I excised 1/2 whole chapter where I did introduce a real historical figure who started the I'm going to mangle the title, the Worshipful Society of Clockmakers, and the Clock Museum, which still exists in London. And it's that's slowing the story down. So I'll have that as a read on my website fairly shortly. But understanding the mechanics of it, and what was really interesting is the clock itself came to me in a dream, and and it's that was the object, and I had to find it, and I sent it to sent it in and say, please, can we incorporate this on the cover? And my wonderful husband brainstorms with me. He's the first who reads anything I write. We were doing some yard work one day, and I was telling him about this clock, and over the course of 8 hours and doing dump runs and doing this heavy lifting, we nutted out exactly the significance this clock plays, and how a particular element of the clock is the key to unlocking Armand's past. And that was such a fun process.
That's so fun. That you have a collaborator like that who will read your work so early.
He's fabulous. He doesn't let me get away with anything. There's no mysterious teleportation which can happen in the story process. It's well, your characters were here a second ago. Now you have them over there. No, connect the dots. And he's also really good in really pinning down the male psyche. And that is also a really important part of, I think, of what we do as romance authors is we understand the female dynamic, sort of obviously being women, but getting that male dynamic right is also a really important part of what we do as authors.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a friend who writes men particularly well, and she beta reads for me, and she's always like, dude would not say mauve, you know. He's just not, he would not, that's not how he would think. And
Not
having
in
to
his
put yourself
vocabulary.
and having to put yourself into a different frame of mind so that you're coming at things from a different thing, I think is really important. And part of the truth of romance, you know, it's like it's all us understanding each other better. Yeah.
And it is
very,
part
very
of
much so.
the mystery of men in general, right? Or somebody you might or might not be falling in love with. It's a mystery as to why they're acting the way they're acting, because you don't know them that well.
And that's it, and that's the exploration, because there's the great vulnerability that happens on both sides as you go through that courtship process, and this is what I enjoy about well-written romances is you actually see that played out on a stage. And I think for me it's really important to model healthy relationships, because you hear some of the young people in their 20s and even early 30s, and it's sort of you go hopefully the lesson you're going to learn is not too painful.
And shorter than they often are.
Yeah.
No, there's something about that when you look at it with the idea of a hero and a heroine see each other for who their essence is, not their identity, but who their essence is, then it's a love that can be transformative, you know, because it helps you stand more in your own space and hold your own space instead of projecting what you want the world to show. And there's a vulnerability in being able to step into that too. So.
Well, that's it, because you want your hero and heroine to bring out the best in each other, and that best in each other then becomes a whole in which they're better together than they are as individuals. So it's not a fulfillment so much as a next level emotional growth, because you can't. I don't think you can be, you can't be a fully independent, I don't need anyone else in the world human, because human beings aren't that way. We
always need somebody.
We always need someone, even if nothing more to go, can I trust my own perception in this? If somebody outside of this that I trust can give me a perspective to either confirm what I know to be true, or offer a different perspective that gives more information that allows a better, more healthy, more fulfilling decision as a result of that. It's and when you've got that utter intimacy of a hero and heroine who are on that right path together, then that is so valuable.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I love not the you complete me kind of love,
Right.
but the you see me kind of love, you know, and I'll hold space for you to remember who you are when you might not remember who you are yourself. That isn't whole filling. It's holding. You know, I love grown-ups falling in love.
Yeah,
that's they can do it in the past, and they can do it time travel. That's, you know, like that's even more better. So
yeah, and there's I mean the literature around finding the perfect mate is that your first date should not be boring at a coffee shop or going out to dinner. It should be some sort of adventure. So what I like about Harry and Ellie meeting for the first time during this very intense 5 days in England in 1344 is they are really put to the test.
That's fire tested.
Yes. Yes. So for them, going out to an Italian restaurant would be much relief after all that they're going through. So yeah, I guess I don't do very well in kind of low pressure situations with my characters. I really want to ramp up, the excitement level. But that's also, when I started writing this series, I had two little girls. I was just recently divorced, so you can bet where I got this plot from. And I was just looking for an adventure that I could not have as a working mom, staying at home. So I wanted to have them do really fun things, which I couldn't do.
And I think that idea of being able to escape into a different world is really, I love that part. That's part of the reason that we turn to reading when the outside world gets kind of yucky. It's
exactly,
there's solace in that. But I want both. I want deep, like, character driven stories, and I want Jurassic Park kind of stories too.
And it's all in what you're in the mood for, right? Because we're so, we readers like so many different things at the same time. So that's what makes it really fun.
Yeah. And see, you set this up beautifully for me, because that means I can say with Dragonblade, you can choose the one that you want, and you're always going to get a certain level of story. You can just pick the flavor of story that you're in the mood for right in that moment. So
right. Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Look, it's no exaggeration to say that all of my favorite historical romance authors are with Dragonblade. And with each new announcement of authors coming on board, there are names I know, and it's sort of, oh yay, I get to enjoy more books and from this particular author, and know that the quality there, the satisfaction of the happily ever after is always there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that about romance too. I love that you're going. If I stick with you for the ride, I'm going to get a satisfying resolution at the end. I can count on that. You're not going to Nicholas Sparks me and leave somebody on the highway under a log truck. We're going to get, we're going to get that.
Yes, yes. And this is it, because there is the proper promise of the happily ever after. You can put your characters through the mill, where if you didn't have that promise at the end, it would get really dark very quickly. But there's always this thread of hope, which is woven all the way through each story, that you know that regardless of the dire circumstances they're in, there is positivity, there's hope, there's love at the end, and that is really wonderful and really redemptive.
That's the hope
especially in a hard world, right? There's not necessarily a lot of happy stories on the news every day.
And things have been kind of challenging the last couple of years. It's nice to know that you can sit down, and it's like I don't have to get too emotionally overwhelmed if bad things are happening, because they're not going to be happening forever. There will be at the end. This, like, you can hold on to the hope part the whole way through it. So
right.
So, Elizabeth, what's coming up next for you? Just the next books in the series, or is there something else that you're working on?
I am working on a couple of side projects with a couple of author friends. Three in our particular group are Dragonblade authors. A group called the Blue Stocking Bells. The Dragonblade authors in that are Caroline Warfield, Cerise DeLand, and Jude Knight, who has a series out in February. And we do one of these every year, and it's an anthology, but all of the characters are interwoven. So there's a great deal of complexity that happens with that. So we borrow each other's characters. We have a thread of the story through, but we come at it at different angles, and that is absolutely fun. There is a Christmas one I'm involved with, Chastity Boland, who's an absolutely amazing Dragonblade author. And next is The Elusive Earl, which is book 3 in that series. And I'm tossing and turning between pitching one of 2 series ideas for Dragonblade as well. One set medieval and another one set in mid-Victorian.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Have you written medieval before?
I have. I have a standalone independent of that set in 1077. And it's just after the Norman conquest, and looking at the fallout and the dynamic between the Saxon society and the Norman invaders, and that's distilled between the battle between the Saxon heroine and the Norman hero, and a serial killer.
Uh-oh.
Because you need to have one of those.
Oh, that's fun. That is a fascinating era. I mean, that's the transition between Old English and Middle English. So it's when the French came in and started changing the Germanic language, and then, French was the language of the court and rules and things like that. But then everybody else was trying to cope and figure out, how are we going to deal with these French speakers?
And it's really interesting how many Saxon words then moved back in to form the English we know today. I really love exploring the etymology of words, and there's a couple of great channels on YouTube that break down the history of words, going from the Proto-Indian right through to modern English, and you can see how different European languages have the same root going way back. And yeah, that is really fun. I geek out on that.
That's fantastic. I didn't know there were such things on YouTube. YouTube is the place to go.
I'll send you a link to that particular channel. You'll enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting to hear people say it too, so that it's not just something you're reading, would be good. It's like
that helps. Isn't it funny when you come across a new word and it's sort of, somebody looks at you and go, what? And it's sort of, yeah, but I read it in a book. Am I using it right? Yeah, you're using it right, but it's pronounced X. It's sort of, okay.
Yeah, that's like when I was reading Harry Potter for the first time and had no idea that what I thought was Hermione was Hermione. And so I thought, until I heard the audiobook narrated, I thought, okay, well, now there you go.
It was really, really funny because city and town names pop up all over the world, and there's a town in Cornwall which has the same name as a town in one of our states in Australia, and we pronounce that Launceston, Tasmania. But no, I was told in no uncertain terms that no, in Cornwall it's Launceston. Sort of
Launceston.
Launceston. Okay. Not Launceston, but no, Launceston.
Oh yeah, there's even regional differences in America with my parents have a place up in New Hampshire, and the near town is Berlin, and everybody else calls it, Berlin.
Yeah.
So, it's Berlin. And then down here in North Carolina, I always get it mixed up now because I grew up in New England, but then moved down south, and we have a Concord, and then in Massachusetts there's Concord. So it's always, you can always kind of sometimes tell where a person's from based on how they pronounce different city names and words.
There's not so much of that in Australia. Small population, so there's particular words that some states use and others don't. But in the UK, where my husband's from, he's from Manchester. the regional dialect differences, as you'd know, Hope, spending time in the UK, are so marked within such a short space of time. Sorry, in such a small geographical
area. Yeah. And it's fascinating to hear, again, one of those TikTokers or YouTubers, speak in 10 different accents from the UK, and they're just so vastly different. And, people didn't travel for so long. They were able to regionally, keep those accents to that specific area. And what I was investigating in books 2 and 3 for my Ladies of the Labyrinth series was the fact that kind of as England developed more and started becoming more bureaucratic, you weren't actually allowed to leave your home village without permission. So that became kind of a problem for me when I was having my characters travel to different places, because I thought, oh my gosh, well, how can they, travel without permission from whomever it was who was in charge?
So there were lots of pilgrimages?
Yeah, exactly. I'll get dispensation from the church to say I'm going on a pilgrimage. Yeah.
So the next 2 Ladies of the Labyrinth, is that what you're working on next, Hope? Is that what's coming up?
Book 2 is turned in, and that's about my favorite character is Gabby, and she is so fun. I think she's 60th in line to the throne of England, and she has no money. So, somebody made a poor decision back in her family line of history. And so she has the kind of the prestige and absolutely no money. And she's a poor PhD candidate who's also an art historian. And that takes place in the time of Da Vinci. So that's actually in 1517, around the time that King Henry VIII was still a young man and still in a good mood, and married to wife number 1, and they run into him, and they are in search of a Da Vinci, and then I think that comes out in April, and then the 3rd book in the series is called I forget. One of them is called Season of the Veil, but the 3rd one is, yes, I believe that's the last one. But in any case, it takes place in Shakespeare's time. So 1592, just when he's on the verge of starting his career.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love it when authors can't remember the titles of their books, because it makes me feel so much better.
Well, my first book had a different name on it until very recently, so I still think of it one way.
Yeah, and I think in your head you've got a working title while you're writing that is not necessarily the best title for the book. So it's like
right. And The Veil Between Worlds is about that kind of. It was called the Thin Place, but it's in Celtic mythology, there's a belief that there's a very thin space between our world and another world that you can pass through. So the Veil Between Worlds is also another Celtic mythology that kind of works more for a romance name. So we're using that instead. So they all have veil in the title.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ladies, it was a delight to talk to you this week. We didn't get to talking about writing, so we're going to have to do that again. We'll have to do this another time. But it was so nice to talk to you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put the links for all the books that released this week in the comments. So if you haven't gotten them already, you can grab them. Dragonblade books are their very best deal on pre-order and release. I'm going to grab them right away. You won't find a better deal. And if you happen to not get them on time, then they're available in Kindle Unlimited, which is how I'm reading a lot of things right now. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Evelyn. It was fun.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. It's always lovely to chat.
Okay. Don't wear out Friday for us before we get there.
I'll keep it in good condition with a cocktail at the end.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.